So I go downstairs to have a cigarette, and man, I just, hear everybody walking up the hill, a group of probably about 7 or 8 people, and they get to the front porch of the Thomas house, and I start hearing crazy stories. Glass threw itself and shattered. Rocks were being thrown inside the church. Change, like nickels, quarters, pennies, just appeared and fell from the sky inside the church, which, by the way, this is a common theme that happens throughout the world. Change, for some reason, just manifests and falls from the sky to the ground. Google that. Really, really strange phenomenon that's been occurring since the beginning of time. Very bizarre stuff. So it's not that I don't believe people. I just lack the ability to believe anything fully unless I'm there to experience it. And I mean, I lack the ability. If I could choose to believe, I would choose to believe because I know these people and I know them to be good people. I just don't have the ability to believe fully unless I experience it. But out of the entire group, the most hardened investigator is Craig. And I look over at Craig, and he looks at me and he just goes, "Brother," in that Australian accent that more often than not just sounds like music. I nodded my head and said, "Yeah?" And he nodded his head. I said, "Yeah." I thought to myself, so there's a haunted church across the street and crazy shit's going on. I want in. So I tell Craig and everybody else that tomorrow night I will go to the allegedly haunted church. Fast forward 21 hours and I am walking down the dirt road to go to the allegedly haunted church with a pretty good sized group, probably 13, 14 of us, maybe 15. Everybody has every gadget they could bring. There's cameras, there's the SLS, which I had never used before. That's the Xbox video game console that tries to map out a body. The usual stuff, K2s, things like that. So we get there, and right away we're testing out this SLS, and because I've never used one, I'm trying to find the flaw in it, which is pretty glaring. It's trying to map a human body. I mean, that's what it's trying to do. That's what it was designed for. And it's using heat to do that. So if you're in frame of the SLS, it's going to map your body. And what a lot of people don't realize until you use a really high-end thermal camera is that your body can heat up a small room. When you put one person in a small room, and it'll change the whole, temperature of the entire room, much less things that are next to you, glass, metal, things like that. So the presence of a human being will heat up everything, and now the SLS will start looking for things that are hot, and it will try to paint a human figure over the top of it. None of these things are helpful in a ghost hunt. The best way to use that piece of equipment would be to pull everybody out of frame, no human beings, and then just see what the disturbance could be. But anyways, that's what we were doing. We were checking out this SLS, and once I kind of figured out how it works and what it's doing, I was honestly getting a little bored because nothing had happened, so I decided I was going to start provoking, which I did. And almost immediately, there's a glass that's thrown behind me. Pretty loud. I mean, you hear a good solid bang. And what's crazy about that is I was sitting in a circle in which the sound came from directly behind me, and I could see where everybody was at in the circle. I could see where everybody's at. So now it is dark in there, but there's definitely enough moonlight and ambient light to make out everyone's body. I knew for a fact There's no way anybody in the group did it. I mean, they wouldn't do that to begin with, because if they were caught, they'd be on the first flight out of Nashville. But because I didn't see it with my own eyes, like I said, it's just hard for me to say that was paranormal. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a glass was halfway, tinkering out the end of something, and our own vibrations from our bodies walking around provided enough bend on the floorboards to cause this thing to fall. I don't know. That's what the mind does. My mind starts looking for answers, It does not jump to, that's a ghost. So I start provoking heavier and heavier and heavier. And little things are happening again, little tinkering sounds, that type of stuff. And then finally Craig says, let's get everybody on one side of the room and Chad on the other. And I love it. I know what he's doing. He knows I'm going to provoke. So he's separating it out to try to determine, is there activity that is happening directly towards Chad when he is ghost hunting? Because that would indicate an intelligent response. So he made the right call. I mean, that's definitely how we should have split up at that time. So I could see where everybody's at, and I started amping the provoking up even more and more and more and more. And all of a sudden, boom! I hear everybody scream. I'm like, what in the fuck was that? When I walked in the building, I saw there was a shoe at the clear back of the room. And something with a lot of force just chucked that shoe hard as hell. And it smashed into something right next to the entire group. Now, I knew where that shoe was. I saw it when I walked in. But I did not see it fly in the dark. I just heard where it hit, how loud it hit. So I started, telling everybody to calm down, get their wits together, collect themselves, which everybody did an awesome job. An awesome job. I mean, really, the group, you could see everybody was terrified, but they were holding it together. So I started saying, you're not allowed to do that to the group. Do it to me, and provoking again, calling it names, daring it to do things. And I kept saying, throw something at me, throw something at me. And all of a sudden I just feel this doom, 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 doom on my shoe. And I hear it bounce several times, boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what the hell? And I turn on my phone, I look down, it's a battery. It's like a AA battery that was thrown directly from in front of me. Like if you drew a straight line at the end of my nose, that's where it came from. Now, who is directly in front of me? Justin Ross, filming. So, obviously he didn't do it. And at this point, I know that nobody in my group is doing this type of fakery. I know that. But I don't know what it is that we are dealing with yet. And I don't have absolute confirmation for sure that this, could be some sort of entity. So I stand up after the battery was thrown, and I walk over and I show it to the group, and I'm like, look, here's this battery. I'm like, it was just, on the ground. I just picked it up in front of me. And right as I'm talking about that, directly behind me, I hear, Chad. I turn around and I go, what? Because the only person behind me is Bob and Sharon Ruiz. Now, Bob is like a brother to me. I mean, one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth. Sharon, I nicknamed Mama a long time ago because she really is like a mama to me, and that's how I view her. She's a lovely human being that, cares about me, and vice versa. I know there's no way they did that. They know that's a big time no-no with me. That would hurt my feelings. If they did that, it would really, really be a shitty thing. And there's no way two people that genuinely care about me are going to do that. But I want to make sure that nobody in the room did. So I say right away, listen, if anybody in here said my name, right now is where you fucking tell me, you know? And, it's dead quiet. I said, nobody in here said my name. And Bob's going, Chad, no. The thing is, I knew that. I knew that because the only male behind me was Bob. And right away, Liz Bowling speaks up and says, look, I heard it. I heard it. Michael Wilcox says, Chad, I heard that right away, loud and clear, man. And Craig says, wow, Chad. Because Craig was in the opposite direction of me. And he goes, there's no question that was your name. And there wasn't. I knew there wasn't. I knew there wasn't. I know what I heard. It was as plain as this and as loud as this. Chad. So at that point, I know for a fact that's the confirmation I needed. So right as we're all discussing that we all heard it, we know where it came from, I just happened to look up, and at the very, very back of the room, I see this extremely tall black figure. Again, I'm thinking it's one of us, but then it turns it was almost like an awkward limp. Had this awkward way of walking, and it walked right into this adjacent corridor next to us. It led to two larger rooms. And I go, who is back there? And everyone's like, yeah, none of us. I'm like, oh my God, I just saw it, guys. I just saw it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I go, I saw this big black thing turn and walk into that room. And I take my eyes away from that corner to address everybody in the group. And I'm talking about it. And right when I look back, I could see that it stepped back through into the room. And right as I look at it, it takes a step back into the darkness of this corridor, which I say, I see it again. I see it again. And Lori says, oh my God, I saw it too. So I run over to that corner and I'm stopped dead in my tracks because what's through that door is a terrifying thing that most ghost hunters have experienced. It's when the nighttime and the dark grayness of night becomes jet black. It's almost just like a black hole, man. Like nothing could penetrate it. And I look in there and it's just jet black. And I say to Craig, you ready? Because this is going to get real. And Craig looks at me and says, yeah, brother, let's do this. Now, at that time, Bob Ruiz has grabbed Lori's camera, and he's right behind me. Justin Ross has a camera, and he has fallen in line too, so they got our backs as we're going to go through this corridor, which we do. We both go through the corridor, and right away I could feel that presence. I could feel it so freaking strong, and so could Craig. I mean, and this isn't psychic ability, it's just intuition. And immediately, I turned the camera into this long room that's adjacent to the room we were just in. And at the back of the room, there's this window and this light, this exterior light that you could see through the window. I'm just standing still, looking down this long corridor, and you could see this black thing steps in front of it once and walks by it, comes back again and walks by it, and the third time steps in front of the light, completely blacks it out and just stays there. Like it was just standing there to let me know, yep, it's me. I was, really freaked out. Because I just couldn't believe how intense all this was so quickly. The glasses being thrown, the battery being thrown, the shoe being thrown, and my name being said. It was just really intense. Just so much of it happened at once. So right as I'm staring at that back window, behind Craig, I hear two, power steps, man. Like something stomped, like thunk, thunk. And I go, Jesus, man. And Craig just went into this rugby mode. I mean, he didn't know where it was coming from, but he was ready for war, man. And I'm like, Craig, right here. He goes, that wasn't you. I'm like, no. And he moves into the entrance to the next room. And I move into the entrance to the room in front of me. And it dawns on me, oh my God, there's two of them. And it's trying to get us away from each other. In which I say to Craig, man, there's two of them. Craig says, yeah, it's trying to separate us. And right as he says that, I felt something I haven't felt since the IM6 case. I felt something touch my arm. At first it felt like a tingle, just like a tingle sensation. But then I just felt the pressure of a grip, just like if something gripped your arm. And I freaked out, man. I lost it for a second. And I freaked everybody out in the room. And I'm sorry for that. I wasn't prepared, man. Immediately after that, I feel something do the same thing to my leg. And I'm freaking out, guys. I'm freaking out because it's not supposed to be able to do that. It's not supposed to be able to touch me. And what I mean by that is, with the protection that I carry, and the way I go about ghost hunting, and what I allow and what I don't, and this stuff all comes down to what you allow, it shouldn't be able to touch me, even if it wanted to. So I'm concerned. Again, is this something familiar that I know? That knows me? Is this like something from my past that is waiting for me? A million things are going through my mind. A million things were going through my mind. But I got to tell you guys, when something that isn't there grabs you, it's just not something you forget. It's not. It's not. Yeah. Just sitting here thinking about it right now, it's just such an uncomfortable feeling when you feel like you don't have control. So I stepped into the room even further by myself, and I started asking and whispering to myself, kind of this prayer I say, and then I address what is ever in the room, and I say, do I know you? Do I know you? Have we met? Do I know you? And you know what? There was little shit going on all over that room. And the next thing I know, I feel Craig's hand on my shoulder. He says, Chad, back out, dude. He goes, back out. He goes, you're all the way in there. There's no way out. I mean, like, there's physically no way where for you to go. And I don't think you realize that right now. And he's right. I didn't. I was so mentally into trying to solve what was going on and so disturbed by the fact that it could touch me, I was just not making good decisions. And thank God Craig was there to just say, hey, man, let's pull back, let's pull back. So as I'm leaving, I come out of there, that little voice inside me is definitely telling me it's time to go. So somebody turned on the lights, and I could hear everybody kind of talking and conversing and about everything that just happened. And I say to everybody, hey, just because we're done, please keep your guard up. Because the lights on or on, off or on don't mean shit. I'm a big fan of the lights being off because it sets a vibe and a tone. And I think your own fear drives the paranormal. It's energy. But the lights being on or off, that has nothing to do with activity. If something is going to show itself, it's going to do it regardless. Something's going to move itself, it's going to do that. Like the lights don't mean anything. So I said, just keep your guard up. And while I was outside, Justin Ross took photos from inside the building. From where I was at, took photos of me and took a wide shot outside of the building. Well, we eventually wrapped up, and we slowly made our way back to the Thomas house. And we were all discussing all kinds of theories as to what it could be that's there. I definitely know how I feel, what I think was there. I do think it was an elemental spirit, which I'll do a whole podcast on elementals. If you don't know what that is, please Google it. And we get back to the hotel, and we're all kind of sitting out front. And Justin says, "Hey, check your phone. I just sent you a photo." And the photo he sent was this, which if you're not looking closely, you can miss what's standing in the doorway, which is this. And this, my friends, is exactly what I saw at the back of the room. Needless to say, this was a seriously intense investigation. And everyone was freaked out, man. Nobody wanted to go to bed. So I intentionally started joking around to lighten the mood. And, just telling, just things like, just playing with people, just telling, like Justin Ross, I don't know how you're going to sleep in your room tonight, man. I got a gut feeling it's there. When I can't laugh right now because my chest is so congested. But just playing with people, and by the time 4 a.m. rolled around, everybody was kind of sitting together upstairs in a group, joking and laughing and telling even more stories, and it was just an amazing time.